These are my Heckel knives. My name's David and this is my review. So starting out, I really like the Heckel brand overall. I like the fact that they are at a very nice price point where they're not a super cheap knife. They hold a nice edge and everything, but at the same time, they're not a super nice, like rare, unique Damascus knife that I have to worry about destroying. I do throw these every now and then in the dishwasher. It just makes my life easier. I know you're probably not supposed to do that, but I do it and I get away with it because I don't have to worry too much about these knives. These knives are made to be used. So with that being said, let's talk about the things that I use most from this set. Now the first one's going to be these shears here. I absolutely love having like more or less scissors or shears here. These are great for cutting up chicken obviously, but I use them every now and then to cut things around the house just to make my life a little bit easier. It's nice that they're out on the countertop and ready to be used. All in all, great shears. You have this nice like kind of breaking end here, which I typically don't use, but you could use that. The next knife I use a whole lot is going to be this little paring knife here. I personally eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, so this knife is really good in particular for cutting things like tomatoes, something that you need to be like delicate with that you wouldn't want to cut with like a chef's knife, for example. It also gives you that nice like wieldable edge. It's not super big, so you can get in there and do what you need to do. Like if you're trying to peel the skin off an apple, or my dad likes to do apples like that, so when I need to peel apples, this would be the knife I would go for because I have that nice little paring edge and I can get in there and carve out what I need to carve out or chop up avocados. This knife is good for that. One other thing to note is you do get 2 paring knives with this set, which is kind of nice. Probably the next most used knife I have in this set is going to be this knife here. And this is going to be really ideal for cutting through hard breads like a baguette or something like that, where you have a nice crusty outer layer and a nice soft inner layer. And of course, if you cut with a typical knife and you don't have this serrated edge and you're not able to kind of saw through that tough crust, you're going to potentially crush your bread and then it's going to be smushed in the middle where you made that cut. This prevents that because you have this nice sawing ability where you can kind of saw through the bread and then cut a nice slice of bread off. So the next knife up here is going to be the chef's knife. This knife is going to be really good when you're chopping up something big, if you're chopping up meat, or if you're chopping onions or something like that. This knife is going to do a good job of doing that. It isn't necessarily my favorite or my go-to. For some reason, I get a little intimidated by the size of this knife just because I don't feel like I have as much control as I do over the paring knife, but it is really good for chopping things. So the next knife I have here is going to be kind of a cross. It's going to be a little bit longer than the paring knife and a little bit shorter than the chef's knife. This guy's going to give you pretty good control overall if you're looking for a little bit more control. But I will say I typically don't use this knife a lot, but if I am cooking a whole lot of food, it's nice to have an extra knife if I don't want to cross-contaminate things. So the best knife for chopping in particular I find is this knife here, and especially if you're cutting something like cheese or onions, stuff that would stick to the blade typically. You'll notice that it has these little indentions here, and these little indentions are going to allow that little chopped pieces that you just cut off to fall off more easily because they're not going to be sticking to the knife as much as they would be if this was a fully solid piece of steel here. So the next knife we have up here is going to be our boring knife, and this is going to be really good for either filleting or skinning fish, that kind of thing. This is what I would use this knife for in particular. So the last set of knives that we have here is we have 6 of these really nice steak knives. Now these get thrown in the dishwasher a whole lot. They're still holding up incredibly well. These are great steak knives to use. They do a nice job of cutting the steak and everything. You do get 6 of these, so it is a nice set that you can lay out for your guest. Lastly, we do have this little honing device, and this is really good for getting the edge of the blade kind of back in line so that it's able to make that nice sharp point. And you just want to be careful with this, always point out. But yeah, you just want to do that little nice motion at about 15 degrees, and then you just want to make sure that you're pulling always away from yourself while you're doing it. So if you're looking for a really nice, high quality knife set that you don't have to feel really guilty about using a lot, this Heckel knife set has been working for me for about 10 years now, and it's still running strong.